Giovanni Brusca is a former hitman for the Sicilian Mafia who gained worldwide attention in 1993 for his kidnapping and murder of 11-year-old Giuseppe Di Matteo. Based in Italy, Brusca was born on February 20th, 1957 in San Giuseppe Giotto. Giovanni is the son of Bernardo Brusca, an equally dangerous capo in the San Giuseppe Mafia who was convicted of several murders in 1985. As a boy, Giovanni would often help his father by cleaning his guns and giving food and clothing to fugitive mafiosos. By the age of 18, Giovanni had already murdered 2 people. His proficiency as a killer was immediately recognized by local mafia bosses, and soon enough, Brusca was recruited by the Corleonesi clan, a faction of the larger Corleone crime family. Upon joining the Corleoneses, Brusca quickly rose through the ranks, eventually becoming the primary hitman for the Sicilian Mafia chief Salvatore Tato Riina. Now, the Sicilian Mafia in the 80s and 90s were fairly similar to the cartels in Mexico today, and that nothing was off limits. They would kill civilians, politicians, journalists, military officials, law enforcement agents, and would target the families of those people as well. Riina was a deranged killer in his own right, as he employed terror tactics like bombings of popular tourist attractions throughout Sicily. He would also bomb churches, restaurants, highways, art galleries, as well as organize shootings and kidnappings of civilians to scare off law enforcement from investigating his organization. One particular terror attack that Riina ordered was the 1984 Train 904 bombing, otherwise known as the Christmas Massacre, which killed 17 people and wounded 266. And the sole purpose of that bombing was to divert attention away from the Maxi trial, which was a trial against 475 members of the Sicilian Mafia. This widespread terror campaign of bombings and kidnappings and murders continued even after Riina was arrested in 1993. In fact, it escalated, because Riina saw it as a tool to keep his associates from cooperating against him. One bombing that Riina ordered from jail that I found to be particularly disturbing was the Tori de Pulsey tower bombing, which killed Fabrizio Nencini, his wife, and their 2 daughters. The man Riina would often task with organizing these assassinations and terror attacks was Giovanni Brusca. Brusca has admitted in court that he has personally committed somewhere between 100 and 200 murders. Brusca's savagery eventually garnered him nicknames like the People Slayer, the Pig, and the Butcher. As the head of Riina's hit squad, Brusca had a reputation for being fearless and would often engage in violent gun battles with Italian police on the streets of Palermo. Brusca also enjoyed inflicting pain on his victims and would often torture them by breaking their legs with hammers and pulling their ears off with pliers. Brusca never wanted to give his targets a quick death either. Instead of using a pistol, he preferred using a nylon cord to strangle his victims to ensure they suffered a long and excruciating end. After killing them, Brusca would often dispose of his victims by roasting them on a grill or dissolving them in acid. On one occasion, Brusca was given an order to kill a man driving a specific kind of tractor, so Brusca waited on the side of the road and proceeded to kill 3 different people driving the same model of tractor to make sure he got the target. One of Brusca's most notable murders was his killing of Giovanni Falcone, the lead prosecutor in the Maxi trial, along with his wife in a car bombing in 1992. Brusca had also carried out the murder of Piero Borsellino, the presiding judge over the Maxi trial, a month later. Of course, the most heinous murder Brusca carried out was his kidnapping, torture, and murder of Giuseppe Di Matteo, the 11-year-old son of Santino Di Matteo. Santino Di Matteo was also a hitman for the Corleonesi clan and had worked alongside Brusca in a number of murders Salvatore Riina had ordered, including the killing of Falcone. When Di Matteo was arrested in 1993, he agreed to cooperate against Riina, as well as dozens of other members of the Corleonesi clan. So in response, Brusca ordered Di Matteo's 11-year-old son to be kidnapped. The boy was held for 779 days, where he was tortured and terrorized by his captors before finally being strangled to death and dissolved in acid. So unlike their American counterparts, who for the most part never targeted law enforcement or the families of those who went against them, the Sicilian Mafia had no qualms at all over killing law enforcement officials, civilians, and whoever else got in their way. They didn't care. They would kill, torture, and terrorize anyone. Brusca was later arrested in 1997, and upon his arrival in court, he met Di Matteo face to face. With tears in his eyes, Di Matteo shouted, "I guarantee my collaboration, but to this animal I guarantee nothing. If you leave me alone with him for 2 minutes, I'll cut off his head." Di Matteo was later sentenced to 15 years in prison, and Brusca was sentenced to life in prison. However, Brusca later turned informant, and because of his cooperation, his sentence was reduced to 26 years. Brusca never felt any remorse for the crimes he committed, and wrote in his memoirs, quote, "Some former mafiosi say today they feel disgust for what they did. I can speak for myself. I've never been upset by these things." Remarkably, Brusca was released from prison earlier this year, and personally, I think it's to the disgrace of Italian law enforcement that they would let this psychopath out into the public.